Welcome to the last video in the series of CLAT Labs 101, the only video series that you need to watch in order to maximize your rank as well as your score in the upcoming CLAT exam. This video deals with the English language section. I have saved the best and the easiest for the last. So without any delay, let's get started. Like always, before I share the specific tips and tricks in order to maximize your score in the English language section, let us try to get a brief overview of this section. So what are the kinds of questions which are covered in this section? The kinds of questions which are covered will be mainly based on either grammar or vocabulary. The questions will mostly test your vocabulary, your ability to read between the lines, and your skills with English grammar. You will have around 24 to 28 questions in this section based on previous trends. And finally, the passages themselves will be extracted mostly from contemporary books and magazines. It is highly unlikely that you will get passages from classics of English literature. So, in the next few slides, I will tell you what are some of the essential skills that you need to have in order to maximize your score in this section of the CLAT exam. And later on, I shall also discuss some of the most common types of questions and what kind of passages you should focus on for this section. So let's move on. Let me tell you what are some of the essential skills that you must have in order to maximize your score in the English language section. So the most important skill that you need to have is speed reading. I've mentioned this previously, but let me repeat myself. You have only around 5 to 6 minutes per passage in the CLAT exam, right? As a good student, you are supposed to be able to read as well as inculcate, that is digest and understand a passage maximum within 4 to 5 minutes. That's it. That is if you want to have a few minutes to spare after you finish solving the paper. That is the most essential skill, speed reading. So how do you develop speed reading? You read for minimum 20 minutes a day. There is no shortcut for this one. In these videos, we have always told you the truth as it is, without mincing our words. So it is the same for speed reading. You have to do the hard work. There is no other option. Okay, so what is the second most essential skill that you need to have? You need to expand your vocabulary. It is extremely essential. Naturally, I am not expecting you to mug up from a thesaurus, right? But naturally, you need to have better vocabulary than your colleagues and your peers. How do you do that? Exactly the same method as before. Minimum 20 minutes of reading good quality material every day. That is compulsory. Number 3, you need to brush up on your grammar skills. This is the easy part because advanced level English grammar will not be tested in the CLAT exam. But you do need to brush up on the basics of English grammar. Finally, and this is extremely important, you can have some oddballs in the English language section. For example, you can get some questions which are patterned or modeled or based on the logical reasoning section. For example, which of the following statements weakens the author's arguments, strengthens the author's arguments, what can be a valid conclusion, which inference can be drawn, which conclusion cannot be drawn, so on and so forth. To summarize, you need the following essential skills. Number 1, speed reading. Number 2, expanding your vocabulary. Number 3, brushing up on your English grammar. And number 4, expecting some oddballs from the logical reasoning section to crop up in the English section. Now, in the next slide, I will talk about what kind of passages are found in the CLAT exam or what kind of passages appear in the CLAT exam. So, let's find out. Once again, it's time for me to answer the million-dollar question. Namely, what kind of passages can I expect to show up in the CLAT exam? So before I tell you what you can expect, let me tell you what won't definitely show up in the CLAT exam. So you won't get passages from classics of English literature. For example, you won't get passages from Shakespeare, from Jane Austen, from Dickens, etc., etc. Right? Mostly you will have passages from works by Indian authors. Authors like Arundhati Roy, Sudha Murthy, and authors of a similar kind. The passages will be lengthy, no doubt, and it will not be lucid. That is, it will not be easy to figure out what the author is trying to convey. You will have to read between the lines, right? And finally, and I'm repeating myself, but you only have 4 or 5 minutes to deal with a single passage. Therefore, you need to get used to, you need to get into the habit of reading complex material and trying to make a sense of it. To summarize, you won't get passages from classics of English literature. Number two, it will be only based mostly on works of Indian authors. And finally, it will not be easy, it will not be lucid. You have 4 or 5 minutes to deal with it. Therefore, it is better to get into practice of reading complex material and digesting and inculcating that material. Now, in the next slide, let me show you what kind of passage can show up in the English language section. This comes from one of the magazines published by Reader's Digest, and unfortunately, material from Reader's Digest is not used in the CLAT exam, but this will still serve as an excellent example. So let's find out. So now pause the video for a minute, read the text which appears on the screen and the next part of the passage which appears in the next slide. Once you are done reading, then you can check out the questions which follow in the next few slides after the passage. Again, it is time to face the music. I hope you read the passage carefully. So, read the question which appears on the screen, pause the video for 1 or 2 minutes and try to answer this question to the best of your ability. This question is based on vocabulary and it is on the easier side. It should be very easy to answer this question. You will find the answer in the next slide. Like I said, this was one of the easier questions. So, in the context of this passage, the word filed down means sawed down or suitably altered with an instrument to make it resemble the teeth of an extinct human relative. If you look at all the remaining options, you could have pinpointed the correct option, that is option number C, also with the elimination method. Filed down has got nothing to do with nailing anything to anything. Number 2, filed down doesn't refer to filing something in a filing cabinet, and none of these was also not the correct option. Hence, the correct option is option number C. We shall deal with one more question, a slightly difficult question, in the next slide. Again, pause the video for a minute, read the question, try to understand the question, and answer this question to the best of your ability. This question is only slightly more difficult compared to the last one. In the second question, the correct answer is also option number C. The whole episode of the Piltdown Man is not a farce because there is nothing far-fetched or unimaginable about the whole episode. Such things can very easily happen. It is not a tragedy because obviously there are no tragic incidents involved in the whole Piltdown Man episode. If you look at the last option, it is also not a case of defamation. There was no false rumor or any false information spread by anyone about anyone. So again, by using the elimination method, you can pinpoint the correct option, which is option number C. Last but not the least, it is my duty to invite you to become a part of the Focal Point fraternity, to study with us and to become successful in your prestigious legal career. Now, it is easier than ever. This month, we have launched our own Android app for students all over India. So, I highly encourage you to download the mobile app for Focal Point Law Classes and Research Center. Module-specific courses, that is, courses specifically dedicated to specific modules like the quant section, the legal reasoning section, etc., are soon going to be available for purchase on the app. Right now, you can check out the numerous free tests, more than 100 questions which are now available on the mobile app. I will share the link in the description, and also you can find the QR in the next slide so that you can easily download the mobile app for Focal Point Law Classes and Research Center. Thank you so much for joining us in this series of 5 videos wherein we explored the best tips and strategies in order to maximize your rank and score in the upcoming CLAT exam. I, along with some of my colleagues and students, did their best to share the best of our knowledge and also the best tips and tricks in order to master each section of the CLAT exam. I certainly hope that you are well prepared for the exam. If you are a student who will be appearing next year or even this year, I warmly invite you to study with us at the Focal Point Law Classes and Research Center. This is the academy where the best legal minds are born. Therefore, without any delay, let me introduce the next video series, which will be based on other law entrance exams like MHCET, SLAT, DULLB, etc. etc. So stay tuned to the YouTube channel for further updates. I would really appreciate if you would subscribe to the channel. Making quality content like this takes a lot of time and effort, and we would really appreciate some feedback. With that in mind, until the next time, goodbye, Jai Hind.